Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 3,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 100 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Hello friends, this is Spencer Love, the host of Conversations with Love, the exclusive one-on-one interview series sweeping the nation, or at the very least, the great province of Alberta, Canada. Tune in weekly to Backbreaker Media, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network, as I host a member of the independent wrestling community here in Alberta, or wherever the hell I feel like interviewing somebody from. You can only find it on Backbreaker Media, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network, and proudly sponsored by Beercade YEG.
Awesome!
This is your main man RJ from the Ringside Rant, heard only on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. So go over and subscribe across all your major platforms, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, to hear every great interview I have every Monday on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. Go over and follow the show's page on Twitter @_Ringside Rant. Follow the network's page @BizWrestleNet. And, as always, embrace the vision.
If you like podcasts and you are listening to them on Backbreaker Media, then you should listen to me, Chris Parrish,
and myself, Manoia,
and the Sounds of Struggle, because we are literally the most entertaining duo you'll ever come across in Western Canadian wrestling, baby.
We talk about things like wrestling
and other sports we like.
Wrestling.
But we won't talk about other sports that we don't like, because it's not that kind of podcast.
Like wrestling.
I mean, we like hockey.
And wrestling.
And we like football.
And wrestling.
And we also like to drink beer.
While wrestling.
Well, not while wrestling, but while watching wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to get into a conversation with Maniac and Chris Parrish, then you need to tune into the Sounds of Struggle live on Backbreaker Media.
Every Thursday.
That's when we hope to drop, but sometimes Mike Malawany doesn't do his job right.
Or we're too drunk to forget.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
He can bleep out the swear word, because we weren't supposed to do that.
Oh,
but
I'll try not to swear. I can't do it.
Yeah. Let's face it, the two of us, we're real.
And spectacular.
And we're a little bit of all right.
Yeah.
We're also Strugglicious.
That we are.
That was kind of the cue. Supposed to do Strugglicious.
Oh, sorry, I'm drunk.
Yeah. So, if you don't want to listen to us, then no. You're stupid, because we're entertaining. And if you want to listen to us, then, come listen to us on Backbreaker Media.
Yeah.
Later,
he said.
Later, bitches.
The following advertisement is sponsored by Beercade YEG. Hello, you are listening to a commercial for the podcast Over the Top Rope, the flagship podcast of the Win Column Sports Network, as well as a proud member of Backbreaker Media. Again, this podcast is sponsored by Beercade YEG. You can find us pretty well anywhere that podcasts are played, including on the iTunes, Podbean, the Google Play, SoundCloud, and on wincolumnsports.ca for all your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of professional wrestling. Tune in every Friday on Backbreaker Media, a member of Win Column Sports.
Okie dokie, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kyle Shaw, your friendly neighborhood ring announcer from Real Canadian Wrestling. You're listening to Monday Night Shaw on Backbreaker Media Network, and on the show today is Dirty Incorporated. First and foremost, we have the newest member of Dirty Inc., Cody Chimera. How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing excellent, Kyle. Thanks for having me on the podcast. It's a real honor.
Yes, it's an honor to have you. Thanks for coming on. Also, Cameron Stevens is here. Cam, how you doing?
What's up?
Not much. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty decent. And then, of course, the first ever returning guest on Monday Night Shaw, Dirty Mike Jones.
It had to happen. I mean, let's be honest here. I'm sure the ratings have not been beat since that first episode, so makes sense.
I don't know, man. The one with Ennis and Metal?
True.
Pretty popular. So, Dirty Mike, you said that you have a big announcement to kick the show off with.
Yeah, so for those who were in attendance in Edmonton on Saturday, we had quite the match. Ended up in a lot of guys on the outside of the ring in a brawl. And one of our newest guys, Real Estate Nate, ended up going through a wall in the back of the room. And Real Estate Nate is now on the shelf, at least for a few months. So he's going to be out for a while. So we're down a member for the next few months.
I'd like to say that's one half of dirty work. And, I'm not too happy about that. And, you can guarantee that Cody Chimera will be looking to exact some kind of revenge against whoever you want to consider the culprit of that heinous act was.
Guaranteed.
As far as I'm concerned, that Real Estate Nate being put on the shelf is nobody else's fault other than Sweet Daddy Soul, Steven Styles, and the Universe Zach Mercury. Nobody else is to blame but those three gentlemen, and trust me when I tell you, those three gentlemen will pay for their actions.
Amen.
Kyle, would you want these two guys coming after you? I know I wouldn't.
Absolutely not. And I'm sorry to hear that about Nate. I was unaware that he had sustained an injury.
Yep, but trust me when I say you haven't seen the last of Real Estate Nate. And as we all know, he's coming back to take everybody to Duplex City.
What I gotta say to that though is, what kind of a man, after beating us in that match, which by the way, would not have happened if, I was on point, and if we had none of this extra crap on the outside happening, if it was just, Sweet Daddy Soul and myself in the ring, the result would have been a lot different. But back to my original point, what kind of a man are you to beat somebody down after the match and put him out of commission? Somebody who's on the rise, making a statement. It's just crap.
Unnecessary.
Welcome to RCW, boys.
Don't worry, brother. The Ink knows how to ditch out the punishment. Don't you worry.
It's like we're slowly changing the landscape.
So, Cody, you're how many matches have you had at this point in your career, bud?
Well, so my first event would have been November 23rd, and then I had the 8th, and then I just had the 4th and the 5th, so I'd be 4 matches in, my friend.
So you're 4 matches in, and you graduated from Storm Wrestling Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. September 2018. And our class is famously known as Dom's class, which would be the famous Dominic Rey Mysterio's son. He trained with us. He's a real professional. He's currently training, I think, with Conan right now. And, his dad has got a plan set out for him. He's going to be one day taking over the name and, big things on the horizon for Dominic. And, but it was a real honor to be able to train with him. He's a real down to earth guy and, nothing but respect for him. So.
What was it like to train with Lance?
Well, you know what? It's exactly what I thought it was like. Lance is a real master of his craft, and Lance is also a straight shooter. He's not just going to sit there and sugarcoat things for you just to try to make you feel good. I knew going into training I had to be, 100% on my game, in order to be able to make any kind of statement at all, and to, really show him that, I do belong in this business. And, I'm sure you're aware there's people that come and go in professional wrestling that, think they have what it takes. And when the metal hits the meat, it turns out to be not true. And, my whole goal the whole entire time is to prove to people that I belong here, just as much as the next guy. And, basically our final evaluation, I was surprised to hear from Lance, and these are his exact words. This isn't, and I'm not definitely trying not to blow smoke up my own ass here or anything, but, I had no prior training. Obviously I was a huge wrestling fan, but, he asked me in our final evaluation, he's like, have you had any previous training to, this class? And I told him no. And he's like, well, I would consider you, kind of he didn't really want to use the word basic, but kind of a standard success story, being able to go in there with little to no experience and, come out the way I have and basically be able to pick up momentum and RCW the way I have as well. And, those were definitely some pretty powerful words coming from him. You're never ever going to hear from Lance unless if you're, Chris Knight and above, you're never going to hear that you're good, especially while you're fresh in training, but to hear that coming from him, it was an honor. And I'm just looking to be able to, like I said, continue momentum and keep on my training here and basically just apply my craft and like I said, make a statement in RCW along with Dirty Work, so in Dirty Ink.
Right on. Cameron, you went down a different path.
Yeah, absolutely.
You trained with the legendary Bruce Hart.
That is correct.
How would you say that training would differ from the training with Lance Storm?
The training definitely wasn't as often. We would train about 3 times a week. When we first started training, it was at the Knuckles MMA gym. They were kind enough to let us train there, and we at first were in the boxing ring, but some of the guys who were already training decided it was a bit too stiff, so they decided to move down to the MMA mats.
Oh, so you turned in the ring for some mats on the floor.
Yeah, I was confused at the time, but I wasn't going to say shit.
It's called break business, brother.
Were you better off for it? Like, was it
I think so.
More comfortable to bump on the mats than
the mats? Yeah, I preferred the mats because then once I finally got to the ring, I was already used to something that's got no give, and now I'm in the ring. It's got very, very, very little. It's still, I think I'm better off for it.
Yeah, so you had to get your body to adapt in such a way that it's going to be prepared for a bump, whether you're taking it on a concrete floor or a cushy trampoline.
Exactly, yeah.
Kyle, I did all my training with Canuck Pro.
Oh, yeah?
Sponsored by Fair and Muncie.
Oh, okay. I did. You also had a deal with Maynard's Fuzzy Peaches, right?
That's right. Just so everyone knows, this podcast brought to you by Maynard's. That's Maynard's, Canada's candy. Fabulous sponsor of Dirty Ink.
Does Maynard's make gas?
Dirty candies.
No comment.
Dirty Ink candies. I just had a thought in my head. Those candies that are in those Harry Potter movies, and some of them taste like vomit or whatever, and they actually make real candies. There you go.
Right? Yeah, the ones where there's a bunch. There's some of them are good tasting, some of them are shitty tasting.
Yeah, some taste like, I don't know, like armpit or like vomit or something. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure the Dirty Ink ones would all just taste like various strains of marijuana.
See,
Or was
that's a myth, though.
that a Sweet Daddy thing?
Well, I don't want to speak for Mr. Stevens here, but I know Mr. Chimera and myself don't partake in those things. Not that we're against it in any way, just not our style. But
it's none of my business what a man does. But for me, it slows me down too much. Okay, I can't crank up the intensity with that stuff, so I choose to stay away from it.
Fair enough.
I believe my entrance music speaks for itself.
Okay. So Dirty Mike, when you decided to put Dirty Ink together, like, what was it that attracted you to, did you have your pick of the litter, like, from the recent Storm class, and was Cody a standout? Is that one of the reasons why you recruited him?
Let me just go down the whole path here, I guess. First, Dirty Ink kind of started with just Dano and I. That was kind of the blossoming of it. And then I joined up with Cam and Sweet Daddy. That was a no-brainer. Talent right in front of me. I didn't even have to think about that one. But when it came to Storm Academy, someone else actually brought these two names to me. It brought me a photo first. And I just knew right away from the photo it was already money with Cody and Real Estate Nate. And then I was lucky enough to meet both guys. And I mean, I say lucky because, you never know until someone steps through the ropes. But first night, I mean, we already talked. These guys don't have a lot of matches under their belts. But I literally had a fan after that first night say to me, I can't think of the exact words, but like, those two guys are awesome, basically. And we're talking 1 or 2 matches in the ring and they're getting that reaction. So there's nothing but a massive future for these two guys. And then beside them, I mean, you got Cameron Stevens, who I've been fortunate enough to spend a year watching, over a year now. Most people only get to see Cam in the ring, which is awesome, but I get to hear his ideas and his thoughts, and this guy lives and breathes wrestling, and that's who's going to be successful, right? Cam and I talk got to be every day, and he's always got an idea, and he's always got something he wants to talk about and some awesome ideas. So, dude, a lot of this fell right in my lap, really. So.
Speaking of that, Mike, it reminded me of over the holidays. I kept sending you texts. Saying, hey Mike, let's get together. Do you have any ideas? Eve. Yeah, Christmas Eve I'm texting Dirty Mike. Hey brother, you have any ideas? He says, hey brother, take a break until New Year.
Turn wrestling off for the holidays, man. And I believe your response was, oh, I never turn wrestling off. Nope. So yeah, Kyle, I mean, shit, this is, I don't believe in, fate or any of that stuff. But I do believe I've been pretty lucky here. And with this team, shit, you got a lot of guys just all on the same page. And let's not forget, we got a vet in Sydney Steele in the background here.
Yeah.
That dude's, first of all, if he's listening, I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but thank you. That dude puts me over every chance he can. And how do you ever thank somebody for that? But when he says in his interviews he's booked every weekend, he is booked every weekend. That's not made up. That's real. So I'd like to think it's the little bit of talent that I have that got me where I am. But without all these guys, who am I, right? I'm just some dude at ringside.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, as far as, like, Cody goes here, like, when I think about RCW, like, there's a few, like, mainstay acts. And one of them is Dirty Ink. Like, there's the NVR, Top Talent, Dirty Ink, Zach Mercury, Steven Styles. Like, these are the mainstays. People that are here and they're probably never going anywhere, right? And so to get doctored into such, like, one of the biggest acts in the company, like, that's gotta be a pretty good feeling there.
It's unreal. It's unreal. And I know we always talk after the show, me and the guys, and obviously we don't get to see all the show, but I know when we're out there as a group and working with those other guys, I know it's over. I know the crowd is cheering or booing or whatever way you want to look at it, but they're popping either way. And that's all. That's my job. That's our job.
Yeah, well, like, I'm just trying to say that, like, if you akin RCW to, like, Attitude Era WWE, you know, you have, like, your Stone Cold Steve Austins, and you got, like, your Nation of Dominations and your DX, and, like, Dirty Inc. is totally, like, one of those, like, mainstay stables. You know what I mean? Like, one of the main acts in the company, and I think that, like, not only for you, because, like, you have built it from the ground up with, Cam Stevens and Sweet Daddy Soul, who, like, let's give him some credit. And then, like, you're only bringing in good guys. Like, Sidney Steele's come in. Was AJ, that kid AJ, with you guys for a little while?
I think he was going to be, but then he just vanished pretty quick. He was really only around for a couple nights.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him, but
I think he was on a PWA show. But don't hold me to that. He was definitely on another show one night when ours was being held, so I guess he found another home.
Fair enough. Okay. But, like, I mean, he was a good prospect for sure.
Here's what I like about, and this is a total shoot right now, but what I like about my little group is I like to think it's a great launching point for some new guys. And not so much for Dano and Cam and Sweet Daddy. They already had their shit laid out. But now I have no issue if my group becomes the one where every once in a while we get a new guy and it gives him a platform. It gets him up off that curtain jerker side of the show where he's actually with a group. People get to see him. He gets to show. I say he or she gets to show who they are. And if at some point they move on from Dirty Inc., then cool.
But, like, from a managerial perspective too, like, you as the manager, you're working with Cam Stevens, Sweet Daddy Soul, you know, like, we're not trying to kill the magic, but you're working with Zach Mercury, like, you're learning from all these different people, and then you're being put in the position where maybe now you can even offer things to Real Estate Nate and Cody Chimera, things that they can use during their matches, or, like, you know, little things you've learned while you're out there.
Well, throw that question over to Mr. Chimera. Let's see what he has to say.
How do you feel about that, Cody?
Absolutely. Like, you know, when I first showed up to my first RCW event, you know, found out that, you know, Mike Jones and, you know, Dirty Inc., they were going to take me under their wing. Like I said, anyone would be a little skeptical at first because, you know, they don't know exactly what they're getting into. But as soon as I started talking with Mike and the ideas he had and just his outlook, I knew that, you know, this is going to be a good thing. You know, and then especially talking with Cam. Cam is, you know, a brilliant mind for the business as well, especially in his young age. You know, it's just nothing but learning new things every time I get together with these guys about this industry and about the direction where, you know, Mike wants to take Dirty Inc. And the nice thing that I see when I look at all of us, you know, you've got a vet like Sidney Steele, and there's a lot of experience there, and he's got something unique he brings to Dirty Inc. And then you've got Cam Stevens, you know, young, up and comer, you know, already been around for a while, world-class training, you know, and he's got another unique aspect. And then, you know, that was one of my main goals, was to just bring another unique aspect to Dirty Inc. Nate brings another unique aspect. And, you know, basically now you're looking at one of the most versatile stables in all of RCW, perhaps in all of Alberta wrestling. And, you know, there's only going to be good things to go from there, especially with a brilliant mind like Mike Jones, you know, taking the reins there and, you know, just showing us what's up.
Cool. So you mentioned, like, other stables in other parts of, Alberta wrestling and whatnot. And one of the podcasts I'm going to be doing very soon is it's going to be like a fantasy booking exercise where we fantasy book a show featuring all the companies in Alberta as if there was no, like, you can't work here, otherwise you're not going to work here, you know what I mean? So like that's the exercise. So if Dirty Inc. could wrestle any of the other factions in Alberta, be it in PWA, Monster Pro, PPW, CWE, CWC, like who would you guys want to go toe to toe with to prove that RCW is the creme de la creme?
Cam, you want to shoot first on this one?
I would have to say the Western Lions. I would love to get an opportunity to get in the ring with those men, and hopefully one of these days it can happen.
That's Michael Richard Blaze and Brandon Van Danielson?
Absolutely.
Those guys are fantastic. Cody, how about you?
No, you know what? For me, I'm not gonna lie. It's whoever you want to put in front of me, I'm game. One of the things that I want to be able to be known for in this business is being able to have a good match with just about anybody. And I mean, I couldn't choose anyone better than what Cam said as well. And I heard a lot of good things when I was in Storm Wrestling Academy about Michael Richard Blaze, and that would definitely be a spectacle for sure. And a guy like him who's been in the industry as long as he has been, you can learn so many things all at once. It'd be mind blowing. And I think that's definitely my pick as well. So
yeah, that's a good pick for sure. Just to think about it, like this coming Friday night in Radway, I mean, by the time this airs, it will have already happened, but we're going to be having MRB on the card against Pride. So it is cool that still we do get these sort of little outside shows where those boundaries are kind of like loosened up a little bit, and we get to bring in some outside people to test our guys in our locker room, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's always good to have new faces in the locker room, and not new faces, but guys that don't that aren't always in our locker room. It's always good to have
a veteran from another locker room bringing their perspective to ours. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and whenever you see something like this happen, it gives you hope for the future where perhaps more cross promotion can happen, because when that is happening, it only strengthens the business. There's people who want to try to divide it for whatever reasons they have. I'm not in agreement with it personally, but it is what it is. But just to see Pride and Michael Richard Blaze go at it this Friday, I'll be watching that match for sure. So, and I'm sure a lot of other people will be as well. And hopefully, it'll set a good example for what can be accomplished in the future, because when things like that are happening, not only are we winning, but so are the fans.
For sure. So I'm just wondering, like, Cody, who would like your influences? Like, where would you like to take your career? Like, what kind of style of wrestling is it that you went to Storm Wrestling Academy hoping to present to the audience?
So, this might be a bit of a Mark answer, but I could care less. But I mean,
you're 4 matches in, so I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not trying to insult you, but like everything you're saying is it's all going to be like
fresh
what
eyes.
Ifs.
Fresh
you know what I
eyes to
mean?
the show, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Lance Storm was a huge influence on my style. That's why I knew I had to go to Storm Academy to start. It's also, he helped me develop good habits. I'm sure some people can attest to, getting training from this guy, that guy, whoever, picking up a lot of bad habits along the way. And that's not something that I wanted to do. But, I grew up watching Bret Hart and his style and just how effective it was. Every once in a while you would see him. So, he has that dive through the middle rope, but you didn't see him do it all the time. And it's just that effectiveness where it's like, okay, he's got something in his arsenal that he can pull out when need be, but it's like he doesn't have to. And that was sort of the style that I wanted to incorporate for myself. Now, obviously, pro wrestling's evolved a little bit, but like I said, a technical style with a bit of a power style as well. Slamming some people around and, eventually, slapping on a submission hold and making them tap out. That is what I want to be able to do in that ring. Especially I have a martial arts background. So, I do train jujitsu. So we're always rolling around, grappling, stuff like that as well. So, that would be something that, hopefully my opponents will have to look out for.
Beautiful. And Cameron, what about you, bud? I've always pictured you as more of a, kind of like a cross between a technical wrestler and a straight-up brawler.
I'd say that's a pretty fair assessment. I couldn't really tell you one style that could describe my in-ring offense. However, I do feel like I have my own little style, and I do things a little bit differently, and I hope that comes out.
You got that really nice standing shooting star. You got a little bit of that high flying in you as well, and that was something that I really liked seeing from you as well. And that's what I'm saying when I go back to something that we all bring to the table, and being a little bit of this, Real Estate Nate. When he's back, you'll see some things from him. He's a powerhouse. He's going to be slamming people around, mowing people down. I got a little bit of technical aspect. I can slam some people. You got Cam. He will brawl. He's got that little bit of high flying. Like I said, we all have something that we all bring to the table with respect to our styles, and all of us as a cohesive unit, it's going to make it dangerous for anybody stepping in the ring for us.
And let's not forget about Sydney Steele in our group as well, with bringing the experience aspect to it and his technical prowess.
Absolutely.
Kyle, I think the one thing our little group always is shooting for here is, we could talk all day about how talented all these guys are, and that is a shoot. That there's no question about that. But in the back, when we're coming out, we're talking about how we're going to entertain. So what are we going to do on top of that? Because let's be honest, we could go around this country or wherever and find 20,000 guys who can work in the ring really well. And these guys we're talking with right here are already awesome, and they're going to get better at that. But what's the next step? What are you doing out there that's making the crowd pop? What are you doing that's getting them involved? And, with Cam beside me, he just improvs so much, and I almost pop myself sometimes when I'm out there. But that's the big thing that I love, and I can tell the fans love it, that we just do stuff off the cuff and we're ready. That's the hardest part of the job at times, and that's my only job. I'm not in there taking any more than a bump or two a night at the most, and so that's how we want to set ourselves aside. I think there's a lot of people in RCW, there's a lot of people in Alberta that go out to that ring and kill it every night. But what else are you doing? What else are you doing that the crowd is standing up and cheering or booing or whatever? What's taking them out of their comfort zone for the night? What's taking their imagination away with them? Most people, let's be honest, most people know what we're doing. They're not, obviously some people don't, but most people know what they're coming to see. They're coming to see athletic entertainment. And if we can suspend their belief and get them involved, man, that's the goal. That's it.
And that's one of the things about your group, Dirty Inc. and whatnot, is you guys don't skimp on the entertainment stuff. You want the matches to be good and stuff, but you'll also come out with a barrage of protest signs,
Yep.
Or you'll appear on the Archer Report every time you're asked, do you want to be on the Archer Report, and you'll be down to do whatever you are asked to do. You come up with your own ideas, and, it's always gold. So,
here's the
I appreciate the fact that you put as much effort into the entertaining people as you do into the meat and potatoes of the actual, between the ropes.
Right. What was lucky this weekend is Cody and I took the road together. And as Cam and you guys can attest to, I don't like taking the road with anybody. It's not something I like to do. I like to kind of be a lone wolf outside of the arena. But, you know, we drove together and we got to spend, you know, 6 hours booking a town, if you know what I mean. And the one thing I try to emphasize in all of this is to always remember where we're at. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're in Alberta, we're wrestling, and we're privileged to do so. But there's no TV cameras rolling just yet. So let's go out, let's try some stuff, and if it's shit, then it's shit, and we won't do it again. But when it's gold, it's gold. Do you know what I mean? So I try to, you know, one thing I said to Cody on the weekend is, let's remember our time in the ring is short. So we drive to Edmonton and we drive back, but our ring time was 12 to 15 minutes, but we were on the road for 6.5 hours. So if you can't go out there and enjoy it, then Kyle, you've heard me say this before. The day it's not fun is the day I'm not doing it. And it's work. We put a lot into it. All of us do. Obviously the guys and girls getting thrown around the ring put even more than I do, but it's got to be fun. And if it's fun for us, it'll be fun for the people sitting in the crowd.
And you know what? I can speak to that a little bit as well, which when Mike was telling me all about that, you know, it actually sounded very familiar to me because the other person who who gave me my training, Lance Storm, said the exact same thing to us in training. He was basically like, you know, the number one goal in this industry is to entertain the crowd. Without the crowd, we're nothing. And, you know, especially on, you know, when you're just breaking into the business and, you know, when you don't have the cameras rolling in front of you and stuff like that. Mike said it the best, you know, and it like I said, it almost makes me wonder if him and Lance had ever talked to each other, because they said the exact same thing. You know, try new things. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone, because if it does work, you know, you've got yourself a hit. You got yourself something that, you know, you can really start implementing into your game plan. But, you know, if it doesn't work, the pressure's not on, because, you know, not a lot of eyes are going to be on you for that. Yeah. And, you know, like I said, those were like, I got nothing but respect for Mike. He's a very, very smart guy when it comes to this industry, especially, you know, being just, you know, like I said, not an actual trained professional wrestler, but, you know, being the managerial role, but for how much knowledge he has of this business, it blows me away.
I completely agree with your sentiment there too. Like, the driving 6 hours for, you know, 5 minutes of showtime or whatever. Like, it's so true. Like, there's been some very uncomfortable car rides, and there's been some awesome ones though as well.
Sure.
Like,
and that's the thing. Like I'm saying, if you go through all that, even the best car ride's not the best car ride. You know what I mean? So if then you get to the arena and you don't enjoy what we're doing, like why would you ever do that?
I mean, it's not something I like to keep harping on, but like at this level, there's not it's not a lucrative endeavor, you know?
Well, like, unless you get a candy sponsor, but let's not get into that. That's
Top Talent apparently has a bunch of sponsors too. Dynamic MMA.
Makes sense.
They got a Mucho Burrito sponsor.
Yeah.
They might have
some Dirty Mike Garage on eBay.
The Dirty Mike, you do have some sort of merchandise store or something, don't you?
Yes and no. So a lot of people ask me what my shoot job is. What do I do? And I usually don't tell anyone, because just like wrestling, people don't really get it.
Oh, okay.
But I resell, I should say, full time on eBay and other spots. And people hear that and they think I'm probably here starving and not getting through the week. But Cam's been to my place. It's all right. I'm doing okay.
So you're like Steve Carell's girlfriend from the 40-year-old version?
Yeah, well, sort of, but I don't deal with the customers. It's just all online. She actually takes people's shit and sells it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
impressed with your knowledge about that movie.
Like that time she wouldn't sell Jonah Hill those high heels.
I bet you she has a lot of shit in that store that you could use for your wrestling costume, and it would look great.
But to sum that all up, Kyle, and I don't want to make this the Mike Jones podcast. I want the guys to get more time to me, but as you boys all know, back in the spring, took my first trip to Europe, spent almost a month there, came back, and really had some insight about, man, what am I doing with my life? And I had a really good job, really good, paid really well. And I walked in and quit and said, I'm done. Thanks, but I'm out, and started this little thing on my own. And, you know, you talk about throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. That's what that was. And luckily, here at the Dirty Mansion, I got squeaky clean Michelle in my corner, and she's got my back, so we're doing all right. We're going to make it work.
How could you not respect a man who takes a risk like that? Like, come on, let's get real here.
It was a big risk. And I told very few people, because just like if you told someone, yeah, I'm going to go into the wrestling business, they're going to tell you you're crazy and it's dumb and it's stupid. And I don't give a shit about that, right? What's the worst that can happen here? It doesn't work and I go get another shoot job. And okay, that's what it'll be.
Well, it's kind of a similar situation that I did as well. I went up north to work this past year. Started as a laborer, ended up working my way to the scaffolding crew, got my first year ticket, and I was making pretty good money. But I knew I had training coming up, and I knew that this is something that is more important to me than any other shoot job out there. And so I just went to management and told them I had a family emergency and I need a layoff, and they were happy to oblige, which is a nice thing for them to do. I mean, they'll do it for anybody in that, in that kayfabe situation, I guess you can say. Basically just riding the pogey train right now. And then, wrestling's my priority, and it's exactly what Mike said. You just go get another shoot job. I mean, we all have enough skills that we can apply outside of this business, and that's the thing, the skills you learn outside of this business help you in this business as well. They're all transferable. So, what Mike was saying, there's no worries there, finding another shoot job when the time when the time arises. So.
Cody, I know that a lot of people that go to the Storm Wrestling Academy come from various other parts of the country or other parts of the world. Were you born and raised in Alberta?
I'm actually was born in a small town in BC called Creston, where the Kokanee Brewery is. Funny thing about that though is they end up shipping the Kokanee all the way across Canada before it gets back to Creston. So, you'd expect to have some of the best Kokanee there, but you don't. So it's just the same kind of piss waters everywhere else. But I've been living in Calgary most of my life. There's not a lot of opportunity in Creston, but I've been living in Calgary most of my life. But to, address what you were saying about people coming from all over the world, it's true, man. I mean, there was myself, there was Nate, there was another fellow who was on the December 8th card there, or was it December 8th? I think so. Yeah, and he ended up kind of losing to Gunner in that match there. Chris Blade, he was another.
Oh, crowd guy.
Yeah, crowd guy. Yeah, him. Yeah, absolutely. So he was in our training class as well. Myself, Nate, him, and Sweet Daddy Soul. We were the only Canadians in our class. Everybody else was either from the States or from Europe or Australia.
Was Keegan Brettle and Jasmine, the Immaculate Jasmine, in your class?
They were, yeah, absolutely. They were really nice people as well. First day, there's that, it's funny, first day we're all sitting there and, I walk in and I could see that everyone's sort of tense. I was the second oldest guy in that class next to Nate. And, I just basically did what I could do to kind of, ease the tension a little bit, introduce yourself, say hi to people, kind of be like, who's ready to do this? Keegan and Jasmine walked in. They did the same thing. You know, they shook everyone's hand. They introduced themselves. They had a great positive attitude. So, but yeah, they were part of it. Another gentleman from Australia, his name was, he wrestled on a few of the RCW cards, in September, October there.
Tony Toro.
Tony Toro, yeah. He is a class act, let me tell you. He's a young kid. I think he's like 24, but, you know, he's got the maturity of somebody 10 years older than him. You know, I learned a lot from him. He's been in the game, I think about 5 years, I think he was saying. Very talented kid. He actually had the shortest review from Lance because Lance really couldn't say anything bad about the guy. He was basically like, you know, you're a very competent worker. You know, anywhere you go, anyone asks me about you, I'll give you a glowing review. You know, he was always kind of used in the examples. You know, anytime Lance needed to show us a move, he always pulled Tony out of the crowd, out of the group, and you know, used him as a partner. Mind you, he is a smaller guy, but you know, I've trained with him in the gym as well, and he goes, man, like he can lift some pretty heavy weight too. You know, and he's somebody that everyone in this business should be watching out for one day. You know, he's just nothing but talent right there.
Excellent. Who are some of the people that you were training with, Cameron? Is there anybody we might know?
Aiden Adams from PWA. He was training with me at Bruce's. Other than that, Bruce's sons would train with us. After I finished training with Bruce, an opportunity came up with a ring that RCW had put up in Calgary, and Kamikaze and Evan Adams took the leadership role in running training there, and I learned quite a bit from those two gentlemen.
Oh, right on. So, when you're in in training, I mean, I'm sure it's different in both your guys' situations, but like, is there any emphasis put on like what your character is going to be? Like, you know what I mean? Like what your persona is, or is it just like we're going to train you how to like work matches, like go through the motions, or does like Lance Storm or Bruce Hart sit down and be like, you know, think about your catchphrases, think about your promos, like think about what kind of costume you want to wear. Like, is any of that concentrated on?
Well, Lance's philosophy is learn the job first. Which is very good advice. There's a lot of people, and there were some people in our training class that were too caught up trying to bring out their personality before actually learning this business, before learning how to do the job properly and how to do the job competently first. But you know, he did touch a little bit on that. And, for him, his example was, you know, he basically kind of took who he is, at least in certain situations, especially when he was around the boys or whatever. And he would always say, like, he doesn't like using this statement, but, you know, for lack of a better way to put it, take kind of who he is already, dial it up to 11. And that worked for him. There are other people out there, they could be, they're good at acting or whatever. They're a character in real life. They can be whatever they are asked to be or whatever they choose to be. You know, I've sort of drawn inspiration from sort of Lance's way. You know, I kind of take who I am. You know, I'm kind of like a naturally intense kind of guy. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy with things that I do. You know, anyone that's around me, in the backstage area, that sort of thing, they kind of know, you know, I can, you know, I've had to learn to dial it down in, you know, like in real life, everyday situations, you know, as I've gotten older, but I can turn it up that way. But that's who I sort of bring out there when you see Cody Chimera in the ring. Yeah. You know, I can get pretty intense, and that's sort of something I'm focused on right now because it's more who I am. But, you know, there's guys out there, they try too hard to really try to be something that they're either not, or they're just too focused on too much personality. And then all the other things that they need to be doing in that ring sort of fall apart. And that was kind of like Lance's thing, like just learn this job, learn how to, you know, get a 1-star match down. Eventually your personality will start to come through.
How about for you, Cameron? Did Bruce Hart give you any advice about like promos or what your character should be? I know this is kind of inside stuff, but it's interesting, you know.
Bruce seemed to focus mostly on the job at hand, which was the in-ring, and a lot of emphasis on the basics of how to chain wrestle, how to actually have a wrestling match and not have to depend on just brawling, you know?
Yeah.
Like myself and Aiden Adams were trained in that department, and then the boys who go to Lance Storm's school, I do intend to go to Lance's school at some point when my funds are there, but
I wasn't aware of that. Right on. Like just to get the finishing touches or whatnot.
Well, at the same time, like the main reason why I want to go to Lance's school as well is because there's nothing that Lance can't teach me, you know what I mean? Like, Lance knows so much. Like, I'm stumbling on my words. Yeah.
It's definitely
I'm trying to figure it out here. It's a bit of a struggle.
It's a no-lose situation, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna still learn no matter what.
Yeah. Lance has a lot to teach, and I have a lot to learn, and Lance is someone who's going to be phenomenal at teaching me more things that I need to learn.
See, and that's a mindset that, you know, everybody, no matter what they're doing, but, you know, in this case, every pro wrestler should have a beginner's mindset, no matter how experienced you are, because there's always something you can learn from anybody in this industry, no matter how inexperienced or experienced they are. And, you know, to have a mindset like that, Cam, that's why, you know, a guy like you will be successful. I try to have that mindset as much as I can as well, because, you know, I firmly believe that is what's going to create my own success. Lance even, you know, tells people that as well. You need to always constantly be wanting to learn, because that's what's going to take you further and further in this business and in this industry. And, you know, you're exactly right. I mean, we had a couple of guys in our class as well. I mean, you know, Keegan, he's a 5-year guy. Tony was a 5-year guy. We had a couple other people as well. Jeremy, you know, or Sweet Daddy Soul, he was in it for, you know, a few years as well. And, you know, just the simple fact of them going there, they know that going to Storm Academy in today's day, is something that will help legitimize you. It's, you know, it's something that, you know, promoters will see, okay, you know, we can take this guy seriously. He had that world-class training from Lance. You know, the way it was put to me is Lance Storm's school there, Storm Academy. It's considered the Harvard of pro wrestling training right now. I mean, like I said, we had guys from all over the world. That's got to tell you something. We had a guy from Switzerland. We had a girl from France. We had the Australians. We had guys from the UK. You know, and whenever I told people, like, you know, they always ask me, they're like, oh, there's just a bunch of Canadian guys there. I'm like, no, like, the Canadians are a minority in this class. And they're like, wow, like, you know, how do these people know about, you know, a training school here in Calgary? And I'm like, you don't know anything about wrestling if you don't know about Storm Academy.
Yeah, no, 100%. I would consider Storm Wrestling Academy to be, like, probably the most famous wrestling school in the world that's, like, producing people actively nowadays. Like, There's other impressive schools, like there was a Ring of
yeah.
Honor school, there's a Chikara school, Combat Zone has a school. You can go to here in Edmonton, I believe Monster Pro has a school. RCW, you can receive training through RCW. I mean, there's a lot of different places, but like when you think like guys, like what wrestling school did you go to? If somebody says Lance Storm, then you're like, oh, okay, well then this person knows what's up,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what are your guys' plans for the future here in RCW? What is one thing you'd like to accomplish in 2019?
I'll start with my answer to that one. In 2019, I'd like Dirty Inc. to continue to be the most unpredictable part of RCW, the part of the show where you don't know what's going to happen, and I think that that's going to continue in 2019.
I couldn't agree any more with that. My personal goal is just to continue to hone my craft and learn from the guys that are around me. And like I said, I can't think of any better group to learn from than Dirty Inc. And, my main goal is, make sure all the eyes are on us. Make sure that when people leave the show, one of the first things, if not the first thing they talk about is Dirty Inc. And, each of the members in it and the stuff that we are going to do, coming up. It's some guys, they make it about titles. Some guys, they make it about just winning. With us, it's like I said, it's basically, people coming back to see us and leaving talking about us. That is a huge thing.
Hey, I can't top that, man. That's exactly what we want. What both those guys just said. We want people to show up because of us. I got nothing against people showing up for other people, but our goal is that people are coming to see us and they're leaving talking about us, just like both these guys are saying. So that's the goal. It sounds simple, but we're going to take care of it.
So which one of you guys has the Commonwealth belt?
That's for us to know, for you to maybe find out at some point if we decide to give you the scoop. I know
it's not in the bag.
Contemplating the situation.
Well, I can guarantee you one thing. If we did have it, we wouldn't admit to it. But personally, if I had that Commonwealth title, the only reason why I would have it is because I pinned Mercury's shoulders to that mat 1, 2, 3, fair and square. Well, I don't know about fair and square, but at least it would be a 1, 2, 3. That would be the only reason why I had that belt. But other than that, I'm gonna leave those decisions up to Mike's hands.
If you look back at all the footage, no one in Dirty Inc. has ever claimed to have the belt. We carried a bag around, said a lot of stuff, but no one ever said that belt was in that bag. And as Mr. Mercury found out Friday night, there was no belt in that bag. So, hey,
well,
I never said we had it.
If I recall, wasn't there some form of mirror in that bag?
Yeah,
and
yep.
A little bit of smoke.
Products.
Little bit of pre-workout was in there.
Oh, some pre-workout too.
You know what? That's the thing. That's the thing that Dirty Inc. we pride ourselves on is, we're basically like the puppet masters. If we want somebody to believe something, they'll believe it, and you can guarantee that they'll be kicking themselves in the ass for falling for it, and we'll be the ones laughing. And I know that this saying has been thrown out there before, but it's a good one. Just when you think you have the answers, Dirty Inc., we change the questions.
So you guys don't have the belt.
Puppets. What are we talking about?
I said you guys don't have the belt then.
What belt?
The Commonwealth Championship.
Zach Mercury's belt?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Not exactly sure what you're talking about.
I have a belt for my pants.
My car has a belt under the hood.
I can bring a belt to the ring and whip people with it.
Especially a ring announcer. That's a good guy to whip with a belt.
Oh no, please don't.
Just one that asks too many questions.
Wait. So would you guys, is there any belts that you guys are looking to claim? Like,
I'll
is
jump right all over that. We want them all, man. We want them all. Picture back in the heyday when the Hart Foundation is on the ramp and every strap in the company is around somebody's waist. Do you know how happy that would make me? And there's enough guys in this group and enough talent that's not a joke. That can happen.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe someone would jump in there and say, oh, what about the women's title? I have no problem adding a female wrestler to Dirty Inc. No problem. So that's all I'm going to say about that part.
Have you been scouting anyone? Have you been scouting dirty girls?
Let's just leave that to 2019, shall we?
Well, I'm sure Mike's definition of scouting might be a little different from yours, Kyle, but, you know, the one thing that I can say about all of us in Dirty Inc., we keep our eyes open, whether it's on, you know, potential stablemates, whether it's on opportunity, and the moment that anybody else in front of us closes their eyes, you can guarantee Dirty Inc. will have the one up on them.
Right on, boys. Well, I don't know. I guess we should probably wrap it up. Do you guys have any social media plugs that you'd like to make? Cody, let's start with you. You're the newest guy on the roster here. How about you give us your fresh new social media plugs?
You can follow me on Instagram at Cody_Chimera. You know, I'm constantly letting the world know what I'm up to and what Dirty Inc.'s up to.
Why don't you spell out the word Chimera there for the fans, just because that might be confusing to some people.
No problem. So Cody is spelt the only way it needs to be spelt. That's Cody. And Chimera would be Chimera. There are multiple ways to spell that. However, I chose the most basic and the oldest way it's been spelt. I mean, for those of you wondering what the hell a chimera is, you know, all you got to do is you just got to grab a book of mythology, Greek mythology. You'll see it was a very feared three-headed beast. It took a very, very overpowered and noble warrior to slay it. However, you know, that's sort of what I feel like I bring to the table is I can bring different aspects of a beast, you know, sort of deal and intensity to this business. So that's sort of the inspiration of that name. But like I said, once again, Chimera.
And that's your Instagram account?
Yeah, Instagram. And I'd say that'd be really the only place, you know, where you people can follow, you know, what Dirty Inc.'s doing, what I'm doing. I do have Twitter, so I do send things to Twitter at the same time as well. I'll just double check here what I have listed for Twitter. I don't know if I've changed that yet or not. To be honest with you, since I got into pro wrestling, I've had to sort of, you know, become reacquainted with this social media thing. For a while there, I was sort of straying away from it. But let me see here. Sorry for this taking so long.
Oh, no. Is that something that's hit you like a landslide? Like, oh, suddenly now you're a pro wrestler?
Well, no, you know what? It's honestly like something that hit me like a landslide is the emphasis on social media, the day and age. I'm one of those guys who has one foot in the old school way and one foot in the new school way. So it's not hard for me to adapt, but some things, you know, it's sort of like.
Well, yeah, you know, if you're not used to it, then it takes a getting used to, right? Just like everything else in life.
So yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Cody McMillan. So that's my shoot name. for anyone who's wondering, which I have no problem revealing that. But I probably might change that to Cody Chimera.
Your last name is McMillan.
Yeah, that's correct. A good old Scottish last name there, laddie.
Ah, right on. Back in my
That was
very,
neat.
very young days, when I was like, I don't know, maybe 18 or whatever, and we used to fuck around in the backyard, me and my buddies, right? And one of my buddies, his last name was McMillan, and he was this big, tall guy. He had to be like almost 7 foot tall, like a huge guy.
Yeah.
And so I was the guy that like came up with all the storylines and stuff. So I was like, your name is now James McKillum.
Ah, that's pretty clever, actually.
Yeah. You don't have to go with being Cody McKillum.
They need to
if you
get
want
you
to be.
Al to, start coming up with some of the ideas for our booking. I think, they could use a mind like yours for that. It's the only nice thing I have to say about you today.
Speaking of that, I mean, I know we were trying to wrap up here, but it did just occur to me that like that is one of the sort of things that I like to do when I'm doing the Archer Report. And the past show here, I didn't do the Archer Report because somebody else took it over for me, and that would be Mike Jones. How did you feel doing the Archer Report, Mike?
Well, you put a mic in the hands of Mike Jones, and the quality of anything is going to increase. And I didn't take it over alone. I remember a couple fellas giving you a hand out the door, as you may recall.
Yeah, but like, did you, like, I basically, like, normally it's kind of left to me to come up with, like, some ideas, and then I'll show up and I'll ask anyone else if they have ideas. Like, did you come into the experience with ideas floating around in your head already?
Yeah, we had a few, but it was kind of an impromptu thing. I didn't know coming in that night that we were going to do it, so.
That's exactly how it goes every time. Like,
yeah, of course. And I find, I don't know why, maybe it's just because Thaddeus has such a rapport with everyone, but it's in Calgary, it's a bit of a struggle to get people involved. Yeah, we did what we could. It was a busy night, but I think it'll be good.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to seeing it for sure. Do you have any social media you want to plug, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Instagram's always the best way, so Dirty M Jones. You'll know it's me. Big picture up there. I'm pretty busy on social media. I try to be anyway, between wrestling and reselling stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Would you consider your online merchandise shop better to be better than the one run by Stephen Lee?
I would say we have different products, but you know what you can do with your $5, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I'm just taking a piss there, Stephen. I don't know if he listens to these or not, but I'm just ribbing, brother.
$5. And you know exactly where to put it.
Yeah, nobody except for the guys on the worker page know what we're talking about, but that was something else. All right, Cameron, how about you, brother? What do you got to plug?
Oh, brother, I got a little bit of everything. I got a Twitter account, Cameron Stevens 0. I've got an Instagram page, and that is at Cameron Stevens Wrestles. And I have a Facebook page too, which is just Cameron Stevens. I think that's everything. I got an online store at whatamaneuver.net.
Oh, really?
Which has links to all of my social medias as well.
And what kind of items can you purchase from your online store?
Oh, tons of stuff. There's t-shirts, there's tank tops, there's hoodies, there's toddler t-shirts, youth t-shirts, infant onesies. There you can get a little bit of everything.
Cameron Stevens infant onesies?
That's a shoot, brother. That's a real thing.
That's amazing. How much did it cost you to get all this hooked up? Or is that kind of like
sponsored.
insider shit that you don't want to say publicly?
By Maynard's Candy.
Because I want to get some like money.
If you want a Cameron Stevens infant onesie, you're gonna have to fork out $22.99.
Do you know how many infants in Newfoundland have a Cameron Stevens onesie?
Each and every one of Cameron Stevens already many building illegitimate children, right?
Talk about corrupting the youth.
That's why he had to leave that's why he had to leave the Maritimes there. Too many misses are looking for him.
Hey, he's laid more chicks than Mother Goose, brother.
Thank you for mentioning geese. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, I want to thank everybody for being on the show tonight. Cody, I know you've only had 4 matches, but I mean, it's clear to everyone that's watching closely enough that you're all in this and you've invested your time and your effort into it, and it's showing, and I want you to know that. Same with you, Mike, Cam, you guys are killing it as always. Like, 2 of my favorite people to see at the shows backstage every time, So
Cool.
Thank you for coming on the show. Mike, thank you for being the first ever 2-time guest. Know, people listening now to Monday Night Shaw, that Dirty Mike Jones is the first person that ever recorded with me twice. So props to Dirty Mike, props to Dirty Inc., props to Cameron Stevens, props to Cody Chimera, Real Estate Nate, and Sydney Steele down in Lethbridge.
And fellas, let Kyle know that you're either dirty
Or you're in the dirt.
Ow.